It's your girl, the Grown Woman Gamer, and today I'm coming at you to talk a little bit about your boy, Kevin Durant. Before we get into that, you know exactly what you need to do. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and comment whether you agree with me or not. I promised myself that I was not going to discuss this Kevin Durant, Kyrie, Brooklyn Nets trade situation until or unless there was an actual trade for either one of these guys. But when everything was going down, my initial thought was that this was some type of gamesmanship from the Nets, Kyrie, and KD to see what other teams would be willing to give up and to disrupt the peace on other teams to demonstrate or show that despite the Nets being swept, that most teams would be willing to give up a decent amount of their talent in order to get Kevin Durant. And the Nets played along to a certain degree. I never thought for a moment that the Nets were going to just lay down and give up Kevin Durant to a team for a piece that wasn't of at least competitive value. And the reason why I didn't say equal value is because we could probably name on one hand the players in the NBA who have a perceived value that's somewhat equal, quote unquote, to Kevin Durant's value. That would be the LeBron James, the Giannis's, the Stephen Curry's, maybe, I don't know, somebody like Anthony Davis could be put into that category. But for the most part, even some of the better players in the league are not given the same level of respect as Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant is effectively one of the best, if not the best, overall scorers in the NBA when he's in his bag. The challenge in this situation is what occurred in the postseason this past year. They got swept by the Boston Celtics, and for all intents and purposes, the Boston Celtics exposed Kevin Durant's weaknesses. One of the things that I often repeat in conversation with friends when discussing basketball and discussing what occurred during that series is that Kevin Durant rarely breaks a sweat. My man was sweating in this series. And we saw a team give him more trouble than I've ever seen him have in his entire career. And I said in a video that I made that I'll pin to the top of this video that other teams are now going to be studying what the Boston Celtics did in that series and utilizing it against Kevin Durant. He's getting older as well. He's 33 years old. So I fully get his motivation for wanting to get out of a situation that would have him playing for the Brooklyn Nets until he's 37 years old. Because honestly, the Brooklyn Nets look to be poorly managed, poorly coached, and the pieces that are around him, although there's some hope that Ben Simmons will somehow blossom with the Brooklyn Nets or that Kyrie will become a reliable, durable option, because reliable is one thing with Kyrie, but he's also had some pretty serious injury issues that have plagued the last years of his career. So Kevin Durant is taking a step back, assessing the situation, and recognizing that spending another 4 years in Brooklyn, the last 4 years of his prime, would be a huge error if he wants to continue the legacy of greatness that he came to be known for, mainly when he was playing with the Golden State Warriors. I get it fully, and I respect that he wants to leave, although at the end of the day, he signed a 4-year extension with the Brooklyn Nets, and he should have thought about that. He should have also thought more circumspectly about partnering with a player like Kyrie, and here we are in this situation. But as it states in my title, I was going to answer the question why I think that the Brooklyn Nets have not been able to find a reasonable trade. Number one, I don't think they want to trade him. I think that the ownership or governorship and the management of the Brooklyn Nets want to give this one more try, a full year with Kyrie, with KD, with Ben Simmons, and the pieces that they have, to see if they are one or two moves away from having a championship contending team. Because of the pandemic, because of all of the various things that have been going on in the last 18 months, we didn't really get to see the Nets at full strength. So there are some people that might believe that if the Nets are at full strength, then they will be a serious contender to get out of the East and maybe even win a championship. And to be honest with you, while I think that this is a reasonable insight, it's hard to really take that seriously as long as they have the coach that they have. No disrespect to Steve Nash. I've said it many times before. He was one of my favorite players to watch, one of the best passers and court generals ever to play basketball, but he doesn't have the experience and the respect required to coach the level of players that he's being asked to coach. And there's so many dynamics on this team, egos and personalities. You need someone who is a bit more seasoned than he is to come in, take control of the situation, and lead these guys, especially because you have a so-called leader in Kevin Durant who is not really interested in being that guy. We've seen players who lead teams on the court, players like Chris Paul, love him or not, respect him or not after what happened, we know that he's a leader of men on a basketball team. So if you're getting older, you're approaching your mid to late 30s, you have to have that added value in order to continue to command the amount of money that you really want. LeBron James is another guy who is an older guy who still has a great deal of value because, with the exception of this last year with Russell Westbrook, for the most part, he's been able to galvanize the team and lead guys towards at least a winning effort, even if they don't necessarily have the greatest of success or win a championship. And Kevin Durant has made it clear throughout his career that he is not interested in being that guy on a team. And that creates another complication for the Brooklyn Nets. When you don't have a player who wants to lead on the floor, your coach has to be that guy. He just has to be that guy. If you look at the Boston Celtics, they're a fine example. No, they didn't win a championship last year, but their coach, Ime Udoka, assumed that leadership role, got people together. He allowed Marcus Smart to be somewhat of an extension of him on the floor in that respect, but truthfully, he was commanding and leading that team. I don't see that player on the Brooklyn. I know that Kyrie has stated verbally that he wants to be that guy, but he recognizes that it's a lot more complicated and it's really hard to lead a team when you're not present. And so the sacrifices that other players make to, take the, that he did not take, that automatically lowers his credence as the leader on the team because he's missing half the games. And other guys who know, just like him, that they have these reservations about taking it, took it anyway in order to be on the team, support the team, be present for the games, to put the team in the best possible position at the end of the year. Because we can talk about them getting swept, but honestly, if they were at full throttle for the entire season and they had Kyrie for those missed games, it's hard to imagine that they would have even been in that same position playing Boston in the first round. So the Nets are in some ways caught between a rock and a hard place because they have one of the most celebrated talents in the NBA, making it extremely clear to them that he doesn't want to be there anymore unless under more ideal circumstances. And other teams are looking at Kevin Durant. They saw what they saw in that first round series. They also know that he's 33 years old. And despite the fact that he did rebound from the really horrible injury he had in Golden State, there's a reason why that Achilles injury is called a career killer. You're never the same again as you were prior to that injury. It's rare that a player can truly bounce back from that because snapping your Achilles it's a catastrophic injury for most basketball players. Kevin Durant has the fact that he's a slighter guy on his side, so he's not carrying a lot of extra weight and things like that. But ultimately, age, along with the just general wear and tear of being a professional athlete at this level, the injury, and some of the more critical people of his personality, and things like that, all of that is adding up to teams not being willing to trade their banner leadership or their hopeful rookie or their established guy or all their picks for Kevin Durant. And so at this point, the Nets will have to make a decision about Kyrie and KD. It's going to be really important that they make the decision about Kyrie before the end of this year because he's only on a 1 year deal. And if they don't get any value from him before the trade deadline around All-Star break, they're not going to get anything for him and he's just going to be gone. Once he's gone, they also have to ask the question, are there players that are going to be jumping at the opportunity to play with Kevin Durant? And to be honest with you, I think there will be because Kevin Durant demands respect. As he's stated, y'all know my body of work. And it's true, he's a great player, no denying that. And can't take that away from him. But age catches up with everybody. We even see it with LeBron. We see it every year with Chris Paul. And the older Kevin Durant gets, the more we're going to see it. We're also still going to see the same things we've seen, him being a reliable option to show up as long as he's healthy and do the very best that he can to help his team to win. But I get why he wants to leave. I don't think that that's going to happen this year. I think he's going to have to make a decision about playing with this team for 1 more year. And if a trade does happen, I think it will happen closer to the All-Star break. Let me know your thoughts on this situation. Do you think that Kevin Durant is going to get the trade that he wants before the season begins? Do you think the Nets are, being that they're a little bit under fire to trade Kyrie to get some value back before the end of the season, going to go ahead and trade Kyrie before the All-Star break? What is your prediction about how this is going to turn out? Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Of course, hit that notification bell so that you can be notified anytime a new video is posted. Love you guys, and I'm out.